guys, I'm here with Gary from Nerdrotic, and also he has and related to like ancient history, he has a live that he does on Sundays, right? Called
Yeah.
Forbidden Frontier, and that specifically goes into a lot of the, like the alternative ancient history stuff, I guess you would say, if you can word it that way. So welcome aboard. Hello.
Thank you. It really needs a term because, like, there's still, even though they say UAP, there's ufology. Like, ancient civilizations need something sharp that just rolls off the tongue, and we don't have it yet. I
We
say we.
don't.
You
And
don't have it yet.
alternative I mean, like, and it's, you can't just say ancient history because then that's like, because it's a little bit different than the mainstream, but then,
Yes.
so yeah, it's pretty, it needs its own space. Okay, so then, like, how did you get into this? Because this is something, so I met Gary in Peru back in, what was that, November
Yep.
or October? And
October, November.
like yeah, like you're deep in the woods. You're deep in the weeds with this stuff. So how did you start us off with your journey into the alternative ancient world?
Okay, it starts out really early. I'll try to keep this brief as possible. When I was a kid, I watched In Search of. So that was my gateway. Leonard Nimoy hosted it. So Spock was hosting the show. Of course, I'm going to watch it. I was like 6, and every story creeped me out, but I loved it. And if you might be young, so if you don't remember In Search of, it was like a little half-hour show where they would go into ancient mysteries, ufology, missing people, Amelia Earhart. There's a famous clip out there that they're going to see. We're going to be in an ice age by now, that goes around. I think even Randall shared that clip, but it was a great show, and it would talk about the Bermuda Triangle. So I was into that show. So my mom got me a book, Charles Berlitz's The Bermuda Triangle, and I think I read that when I was like 8 or 9. It's one of, like, honestly, one of the first full books I ever read. And aside from Hitchhiker, and it blew my mind. So I wanted to read more Charles Berlitz, and I found Eric von Daniken. I found Zachariah Sitchin. So I was doing this as a kid, and I was into it because I like the whole mystery of it. And I just didn't want to believe that there's this linear world, even when I was younger. Now, I'm not saying I believed everything in it, but it was, if anything, it was a cool story. So yeah, I've been into ufology from a very early age, just a fan. And I guess that's the best way to put it. I'm an enthusiast. And then I started, and that stayed with me. And I read those books, and I kind of kept it secret. It was kind of like being a nerd back in the day. It's not something you told, like, your girlfriend if you wanted a girlfriend. It's not like that.
You're
You
right.
don't hit them up on the first date like, I'm really into UFOs in Atlantis. But luckily, my wife of 21 years, who I've known for 40 years, is completely into this stuff, who you met. But then, it was just a hobby, and I've read more books on this subject than anything else, even like fantasy. I mean, outside of comic books, but like books without pictures. The most books I've read are in this field. And I listen to Art Bell every night without question. Like, every night I didn't miss Art Bell. And I just became obsessed with the mystery, and I leaned way more into ancient civilizations because I was more of a UFO guy. I really liked the X-Files and all that. But when Graham Hancock's book came out, and because I heard him on Art Bell, I bought his book immediately. And that's what really, like, because I felt like UFO, I love it. We don't have any really solid evidence yet. What Graham was getting into is there is evidence of ancient civilizations spread throughout this planet. I'm putting it very simply. There's a lot of similarities, and it seemed to make a lot of sense to me. And this is prior to us knowing about the Younger Dryas or anything. We just didn't know what caused it. And I that's what I kind of locked in on, because there was something tangible here, and I'm like, no, this could have actually happened. Like, Atlantis could have been a story from something. It makes sense. So when I started looking more into it, I read way more books than I probably should have. I dived into Michael Cremo's tome, Forbidden Archaeology. That thing is huge. There's an audiobook out there that's the abridged version. This thing is
That's what
uh,
I start. Like you were the one who told me you gotta read Michael Cremo's thing, and I was like, okay. And I started with the audio, and it's even that is dense though. It's
it's
a lot, but it's good.
it's all information. Yeah, it's dense. You know, I like David Hatcher Childress, and then we've seen it blow up, you know, like even your sphere that you're in right now, and could thank Ancient Aliens. Like Ancient Aliens has done so much for this sphere. Now I know a lot of people like to go get away from the alien stuff, and I agree. I think it's man, but and I believe in aliens, but it is shown more of the world than you're like than your average nature show. It's on 21 seasons and it goes to Pumapuku all the freaking time. And now like
I
these are
learned about the Nazca lines from Ancient Aliens. Like being honest, it's like one of the first episodes, and I remember being like, "Wait, what? Like, how come I've never even heard of this place before? That's weird." And like you learn about like I learned of Band of Holes and all that stuff from Ancient Aliens. That's the first exposure I ever got to some of these weird places. So I don't knock Ancient Aliens. I think they do some
I
good.
think they've done a lot of good, you know, a lot of crazy, you know, like of course they get to of course ancient alien theorists agree. You know, it's crazy, but it's done more for this field than anybody. Graham Hancock was on early episodes, and now Graham Hancock has specials. Randall, you know, it all blew up when Randall and Graham were together on Joe Rogan. I have listened to their 3 episodes 50 times each. Like I
Yeah.
go back to it like once every couple months now. Like I still listen to those episodes because they're so damn good. And that like really brought it to the masses that led to the special. And I think the reason I focus on this one again is because it's so tangible. I like all the stuff. Like I've never seen a UFO. And I think the one thing I know it
I have. I
sucks.
mean, you
I've
haven't seen
tried.
it though? Okay.
No, I've tried so freaking hard. I've laid out at Joshua Tree. I've gone like hiked out in the desert where there's no light, like there's no light pollution anywhere, and spent 2 nights. This,
Come with me to Chaco Canyon and you'll
okay,
well, yeah.
yeah, I've tried. But the one thing I've had an experience with would be the one thing I wouldn't believe at all unless I had an experience was ghosts. You know, that's
Oh,
the thing
okay.
I've had a real
Well,
experience with.
okay,
So,
tell us this. I love paranormal shit. I love the woo, just as much as I love ancient history. But so tell me about the ghost thing. I got to hear this.
okay, so I grew up in Southern California in a little beach town outside north of San Diego called Encinitas, where we have the La Paloma Theater, and we did Rocky Horror every Friday and Saturday night as teenagers. And for a while, I lived there and worked in the theater, cleaning it up afterwards and stuff. So it's an old 1920s theater where they used to have the piano player and stuff. So it has a stage, it has a screen, and then there's a stage like where you can like and bands play though, like Megadeth is
Oh,
played
okay.
there. So under the stage is the dressing room, so you can go out a door and go under the stage, and that's where we were hanging out one night after Rocky Horror. And we've always heard the place is haunted, right? And I didn't have an experience for the first year there, but this is the best one. This isn't the only one. This is the best one. So I had locked up. I know everybody was gone, and it was me and 2 friends just hanging out down there, just shooting the you know what. And we hear some footsteps over the stage, like right above us. And I'm like, somebody's here. Somebody must have hid out and they're gonna scare us or something like that. So we went up, we searched the entire theater, and I knew every crack and crevice of it. And it's got like little access time. It's crazy. Um, Nobody was there. Go back down, hear the damn steps again, go back up, check everything. And I'm like, okay, this is getting weird. On the third time, we were sufficiently freaked out that we went to go leave. And as we're leaving, there's a taco shop across the street. We're like, we're gonna go get some burritos. I'm out of here, dude. Like, and I had to go back there and sleep, which sucked. Um, the front doors shook right in front of us. So I'm thinking there's somebody outside there. So we unlocked the front doors, look out, nobody there. So we just went F this place and got the hell out. You know, got okay. Was I a little stoned at the time? Yeah, but stone like being stoned doesn't make you hallucinate. Okay. And that was like one time I was there with my girlfriend in the booth. She got her necklace just yanked.
Oh,
We were always hearing noises. We were always hearing little whispers and stuff. It's because it gets really quiet in there, and I slept in there, which I wasn't supposed to. But I was kind of a runaway teenager at the time, and it was the creepiest place. And two people had died in there.
I was
So
gonna say, like, if it's a
yeah,
like, okay, so maybe some people died in there. Oh, okay.
yep. That's my experience. And if I didn't have that, I'd think ghosts were complete BS. But
Yeah.
and what they are, I have no idea. Interdimensional, leftover kinetic energy. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know because like I recently heard this story about this guy who basically went back to like his childhood home and he kept on seeing a ghost of his aunt and uncle fighting in this room, and he was like, the thing is my aunt is still alive. My uncle's dead, but my aunt is still alive. So he's like, it's not like her dead soul incarnated. Like, so people have also talked about it could be like an impressionable moment in time, like a feedback loop of like a it's almost like something gets super etched deep into the record of time and then it keeps like overlapping. So yeah, so ghosts are very mysterious. I love that stuff. But okay, so like which place is the most mysterious for you? Like which like do you like Egypt the most? Do you like what's your thing?
Oh, I would have to say right now it's Turkey. And like it would like Egypt's the go-to. Egypt's like the obvious one.
Mhm.
When you say, well, what's the greatest movie ever made? You go, well, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but then you consider everything else. That's kind of what Egypt is. But Turkey with Göbekli Tepe and Daring Kuyu and like just and all the new stuff they're digging up seems like the craziest to me. Now we went to the place I always wanted to go from being a kid, and you know what I was first familiar with was Machu Picchu, but it was all the other stuff. Like Machu Picchu was cool. Don't get me wrong,
Right.
really cool. But everything else we saw. But Turkey right now seems like it's got the most going on, and it's still early stages. And unfortunately, it's getting touristy now. And I would have loved to have caught
Yeah.
it a little earlier. But like those little moments we had in Peru where we could go just explore. And I remember you talking about this, like we weren't held, there's no fences blocking us from anything, and we could just go climb over stuff. That's what I feel like you still until very recently could have done in Turkey and probably still can in a lot of places. But
Yeah,
it's
like, well, I mean, I just got back from Turkey with Jimmy and Mike, and like we were able to go to like Göbekli Tepe is it's a horrible in terms of you're on a platform, you can't see anything, you can't get up close to anything. It's like that one's done, in terms of like having your awe moment. But Karahan Tepe is still they haven't put the thing on it yet. You can still like no one was there. We just walked around and then that other one, Cyberg, like uh, yeah, there's a lot of them. What's really sad about Turkey is like they've excavated them and then abandoned them, and then they're just kind of. I mean, there's a whole lot of crazy stuff going. I just feel like
that's
it's like really bad stewardship of the land.
yeah.
Like it's just crazy how yeah, they
It's the mystery aspect of it, though. It's where it's lining up, where it's near the Euphrates and the Tigris River, um, Noah's Ark, and was Noah's Ark Darren Kuyu? Was it an actual ark? And it really and just how old it
okay.
is and insane,
So this is Nikki Wu and like Jimmy
Yes, let's
and
go.
Mike would not say this, but like Darren Kuru totally gave me the creeps. Like, so I was down in it and it was like, you're talking 20 stories down. It's like, I was thinking it's like by a mountain and then you go into a cave and then, no, it's like a feel like when you're on the outside of Darrencourt, you're looking around, there's nothing that you would think there would be any kind of underground. It's just flat plain and there's mountains off in the distance, but nowhere near it. And then you walk down these little steps, and then you're in a city that goes like 20 stories down, even to an underground river. Like how they even knew to find that underground river is beyond me.
Yeah.
What is weird is like there's not one like enclave for a sculpture or like a shelf that nobody carved anything cool. There's not it is like the most barren, like utilitarian situation I've ever seen. Like I don't think it was made by humans. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. I think we're dealing with like a hi ho, it's
Ah, dwarves.
dwarfs or
Yeah,
something
you're
else that
speaking my language.
but like I don't know. I do think we're talking more Lord of the Rings than we okay, and then also right by it when you go to Hatshepsut, which is a couple hours away from it, though, there's literally things that look like dwarfs with the even the like elf hats that fold over like Santa Claus thing
Hmm.
carved all over the walls. So I'm going like, well, and they're like, well, that's just like this dress they used to wear back there, but in the Anatolia region. And I'm like, or they're dwarfs, or they're elves, or something. I don't know. But whatever built Darren Kuru thought differently than humans. Because I don't care if we were, I don't care what kind of situation it was, but if a human is down underneath the ground digging 20 stories and they're having to be there for any length of time, like you have me in there for a week, I'm gonna be like, here's my name, or I'm gonna be
Yeah.
drawing a spiral something, or and it's can be carved into. It's like soft, I don't know, earth stuff and nothing. It just all looks like these little crazy utilitarian
It's very efficient, very
very
pragmatic, and that's not the way we are. That's what really
yep.
stands out in the caves in China, those crazy caves in
Oh yeah, the
India
long U cave.
is that's why those look to me okay, so they could look ancient or they some of them look futuristic to me. Like
Oh yeah.
something something really advanced with no ego that wasn't going to sign their yes, they're on the Indian caves there's a signature, but it's clearly done after these things were
Right.
done, and the engineering in those things is insane. So that's it looks very utilitarian, almost brutalist, and that yeah, there's no signatures, there's no like Bob was here, or Gimli was here, but
Or like let's make this room the a little bit cooler and have like
yeah,
arched roof and like I mean there was no artistry into it. It
it's
was
pure engineering, which is cool and sterile and a little creepy and a little creepy.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
So that's
no,
why I was like, okay. I'm down here going like, I don't know what this thing was, but it wasn't. But I sort of think the same way about like some of the stuff like in Peru, even when we're at Sacsayhuaman, which is my mecca. That's like the craziest thing ever. But I don't I'm looking at the polygonal ways in which they did the stones, and I'm going like, humans don't think that way. We don't pre-struct puzzles like all, I mean, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I don't know if it is giants who thought differently or if it's like dragon. I don't know who it is, but I feel like something was maybe a hominid like relative, but not exactly what we are today thought and anyway their brain structure of how they constructed was different, so I think
yeah, I think that's something that probably I think it will be explored more. We don't have enough evidence, but and I talk about this a ton on the show, but this Graham Hancock tweeted about it. Cave of Bones, that documentary on Netflix about the hominid species that pretty much look like chimps. So they had smaller brains than we did. They were like tall, upright chimps. And it's called Cave of Bones. And the scientist found ritual burying. So like they were not just like they were burying their dead in fetal positions, and they were putting tools in their hands. They were showing reverence. They were putting signs. Also, they walked down this insanely dangerous cave, basically for this tomb. So,
mm.
so they had reverence for their dead, which is a sign of intelligence. This is a major sign of consciousness and intelligence. So the sign, and he was like the whole documentary, he's freaked out about this because he's like, this is gonna change the paradigm because this hominid was correct me if I'm wrong out there in the comments section.
Right.
I want to say it's 250,000 years old, or no, way older. It's supposed to be like way older than man. So it goes way no 400,000 years old. So it's 400,000 years. Um, and they had fire and all that stuff too. But they were really focusing on the symbols they put up, the reverence they had for their dead, and he put out there did they have a religion? It looks like it. And they like, he's all, I don't know if I want to push that right now because I'm going to get killed. But so, but what
Yeah, but
that
if they
showed is that,
buried them in a certain position, then, I don't know. Yeah.
yeah, going through ritualistic burying for basically a monkey is insane. That's insane. So it wasn't just a monkey. So maybe we weren't, modern humans, Neanderthal, we all had our different forms of consciousness. And maybe, maybe the question should be asked, why are we the last humans? And is that good? Like, because there used to be a lot of us hominids running around
Yeah.
and there isn't. So maybe one of those offshoots had a civilization that we didn't know about.
Well, and like this is where I actually started out with UFOs too before because I have seen UFOs and I'm from Albuquerque and I'm New Mexico and so that's very UFO area and like th I started going like, well, we're being told these things are from Alpha Centauri or like off way off, far, far away in a galaxy, but they're here now. Like we're seeing stuff here on Earth. So maybe they're not as far away as we think, or maybe they're not from these different planets. Maybe they live here and maybe
Mm.
maybe they're hidden somehow or living in different parts of the planet that we don't know or interdimensional or something like that. And then so that kind of led me more into the ancient history stuff like, well, something built the pyramids, okay? Like that is I don't know. I look, like some of the stones are more than a Boeing 737 airplane and you're telling me that some guys used some ropes and pulleys and pulled them across. I mean, what are we talking about here? Like they still can't fit. We couldn't rebuild the pyramids today if we wanted to.
No, they defy logic. They still defy logic. They will continue to defy logic. We have no idea how they were built. Um, it and what they used to look like.
Right.
So, my belief is, they either were a holdover of plans that have been passed down for centuries that were built in. I mean, I still won't say modern times. I still think they're older than people say they are. But I think they're a holdover from what we'll call Atlantis. I think a lot of that information was still out there after the Younger Dryas, and it just kind of faded away with time. It's that happens a lot. I don't know about aliens, but I believe aliens are here now, like 100%.
Yeah.
I think they're in our oceans. I don't know if they're interplanetary, interdimensional, us from the future. I'm kind of open to all three of those.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
But if I was here just monitoring the human race for whatever reason, and I could travel, intergalactic, distances in record time, the ocean would be where I'd be. And we have seen them all the time in the oceans.
And they,
Like,
yeah, a large portion of UFOs go in and out of the ocean. But I mean, also they see them going in and out of mountains, Antarctica. We like that's a whole continent that we think we're going to go to Mars, but yeah, we haven't even really done much with a continent on our own planet. Our ocean floors are 75% of the planet. So yeah, like there could totally be living amongst us and we don't even know about it.
no, and I don't think it's like one species. I think you always hear as above, so below. I reverse that. As below, so above. I think the craziness of this world is probably a perfect reflection of whatever civilizations are out there. I think
Nice. Yeah.
I think honestly, Hitchhiker might be the most accurate. It might be like a bureaucracy and the same stupidity of life out there. But with a lot different species. And I think that if we really want to go in the weeds, I think there's multiple species who know that we're here, and I think they maybe they keep each other in check. Maybe there's some really nice ones, maybe there's some really bad ones.
Yeah.
um and maybe they're afraid of us. Maybe they're afraid like that, like, oh, these guys are crazy if they get out here. Holy shit.
Right.
you
We're like
know uh
designers.
yeah, so that maybe that's just why they're, and I think they've been coming here forever, but once we it was basically a point of first contact in Star Trek. It's when a civilization achieves warp. Maybe in our world, it's when we blow up an atom bomb. And I don't think it's any coincidence that we blow up the atom bomb. We start seeing a lot of UFOs. That's when Roswell happens. And oh, they also developed, they also pretty much started the CIA, the NSA, and all of these three-letter agencies all around the same time. It's just a big coincidence. Just a big coincidence.
Right, exactly. So, all right, okay, give me your you mentioned Atlantis and stuff and Younger Dryas. So what like and I give you the reservation to change your mind in the future, but as of today, like where are you standing? Like do you think we had a comet? Do you think we had a pole shift? Do you think we had a solar flash? Like do you even think we had a cataclysm? Walk me through what you think has gone on to with is Atlantis? What is it to you? What does that mean? And yeah, what happened?
I think Atlantis is I'm leaning towards Randall. I think it was a place, and I think it was pretty close to where Plato said. And I think Randall laid out a very detailed, good case of the possibility of it being around the
Azores
Azores.
area?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think it was a bigger civilization that stretched out. I think there was also civilizations that weren't maybe as advanced as Atlantis, but there's the Proto Greeks, and they were around, and maybe there was one in the east. Maybe it was all one empire. Maybe it was multiple empires, but I don't think it was just Atlantis. But I think they were in some sort of contact with each other because man, you look at the T pillar, you look at the pillars in oh my God, it's in Indonesia. I can't pronounce the name. It starts
Non
with an S.
that one.
No,
Or
it's Scylla Swayze or something. I'm butchering it. Sorry, but I've been kicked out of 3 high schools. You look at Easter Island. It's all the dudes with their arms right next to them, like, and
holding
people
your
say
tongue.
like
Yeah.
holding their junk or a belt buckle, but they're holding their junk, all doing the same thing. And it's right around the time where Randall brought this up, like, after a cataclysm, we need to be fruitful and multiply.
Yeah.
And we see that a lot of places, and it's like that just doesn't happen by accident. They're too close together. I can understand like maybe man independently thought of the pyramid structure, right? Of
Right.
maybe, I don't think so, but maybe I'm going to be open to that. But like now, I didn't learn any of this in school. I didn't know about mounds and how the mounds look like pyramids.
Yep.
And I never learned that in school, but now it's all over North America. It's everywhere.
Cahokia Mound, which I've been to a couple of times, I'm going to next week, is outside of St. Louis, and it's got the Cahokia is the city complex, and Monk's Mound is got the same base. It's like got the same size of base as the Great Pyramid.
That's
It,
insane.
yeah.
And that doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen by accident. So yes, I believe there was some form of an Atlantis. And hell, the Eye of the Sahara, I'm open to that one. That place is crazy. I do think it's a natural location, but that they absolutely
Yeah.
used because
Yeah,
man, it
I have an arrowhead that um David Stig Hansen brought me from there. So I mean like there was some people there at one point. I don't know doing what, but yeah.
yeah, and I think yes, I think there was a cataclysm. I am still leaning towards comet, but they and I get them confused. So the one are they focusing on the start of the Younger Dryas or the end?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know
They
because
focus on one more than the other.
the beginning is the one that had to start the ice age and then
And I think that would be the comet. Now, if we want to get into Robert Schoch,
yeah,
I
I see I'm more of a solar flash person just because of all the I don't know, the vitrification, like the
there's a
melting
lot.
quality. There's a lot and I think there's yeah, and I'm more into the yeah, maybe the um maybe the earth wasn't as tilted as much, maybe the poles were
Yep.
different, like something was different because like like the all the woolly mammoths that are in Siberia, for example, like there was a huge life up north at
Yeah. So Siberia, there was a bunch of mammals. I mean, that's as far north as where the American ice cap was, the 2 ice caps over North America. It's in the same area and it was warm there, but it was cold enough over North America to have like a couple of miles of ice in certain places across the whole damn top of the continent. So like that makes no sense
no,
at all. And then there's all the mass death. And like they're still like hundreds of years later, they're still pulling tusks and mammoths and bison out of the muck. Like
Yeah.
hundreds, not 100, hundreds of years later. They're still illegally in Russia and Siberia. There's a whole trade to go down to China. There was a documentary from 2012 on it. There's just the boneyard in Alaska, which is just a couple of acres. So they're still digging up mammoth tusks to this day regularly, hundreds of years later. And there's a picture of a British warehouse when they were digging them up. That was like a just pick. It's a hand drawn picture, but it is a full warehouse full of tusks. So we've been doing this for a long time, and and they're still finding them.
Talking about like the boneyards and all of the okay, so then
And the younger Dryas, and like, what do we think happened? Was it the comet, or was it Robert Schoch? Was it a pole shift? And I definitely lean towards comet, but Robert Schoch stuff is the scariest, like by far. There ain't no running from that.
right, because that's like the sun explodes and you just deal with it.
Yeah. I guess the pole shift would be scary. It's there's so many. I mean, there's Ben from Suspicious Observers, who, is Ben. His theory on the pole shift is there will be like a freaking 3,000-foot tidal wave that will wade, but the water will just keep coming. It's not like an actual wave like in Day After Tomorrow that comes over
Right.
the Himalayas. It'll just be water rising. It will be a wave, and it'll be bad. That's pretty terrifying. And like the only place you have to be safe is like high up in the mountains.
Right, but the thing for me is like I'm like, well then, but you see, I don't know, there's all kinds of fossils up in the Rockies and stuff too. So I'm kind of going like, we don't really know where something like that would happen or when or how or if it would be gradual or if it would I don't know. I mean, yeah, but Ben is more doomsday like the worst case scenario. Uh I'm
Yes, and he is prepared.
Yes, in fact, he's paired with his compound in Colorado, so yeah, good on him. But yeah, like I hope it doesn't come to that, but you know, I don't want to live in Mad Max world.
I don't either. I mean, like my only initial survival is, and this probably motivates Ben more than anything, is kids. Your kids. So like, I would want to like, okay, I guess I have to be around to protect my kids. But
Right.
yeah, I wouldn't want to live in Mad Max world. That would suck.
Yeah, it would very, very, very much suck. So what do you think about dating in general, like the like dates of the sites? Like,
Oh, I think I generally think they're all full of shit. To put it mildly. Especially now that I've been to Peru. So I can say I've been to one, and you can clearly see like when like that what's great about Cusco, as you know, and as probably 99% of your audience knows, is you can see the timeline on the walls. You can walk around
mhm.
the city and see the timeline, and you can see really effing old. We have no idea, to the Mayans, to the Spanish, to now, in a structure. And it's so bad. We were talking about this last Sunday. Remember when we were driving around, and our guide, who was wonderful, was like, oh, every time they dig here for sewage, you got to call in an archaeologist, because they find like it's just
Yeah.
the entire town is already on top of an entire town that was on top of an entire town, which it could be the oldest continuous city on the planet. We don't really know. I think it's far older than they say it is. So I think a good example of bullshit dating is you compare Göbekli Tepe to Malta and Gigantea, and they all look the same. The shit looks the same, and they're saying, well, but it's separated by thousands of years. I'm all, no, it's not. And I've always thought Malta, and I've always thought that was older. I think it goes back, they say 7 or 8,000 years. I think those are easily 12, maybe 20. I think the Sphinx is insanely old, and it's being reworked maybe a couple times. What did Robert Schoch's his late? He seemed he was so he was hesitant to say longer, that he was like, yeah, 24,000 years, but now he's like, nah, it's older. It's older than that. And I agree with that. I think most of them are wrong. We have no way of knowing, and as you guys know and your audience knows, the only way they can tell is if that stone was put on some
Organic.
biological matter or plant, and maybe it was moved. We like there's so much circumstance. It just becomes circumstantial evidence. That's all it is.
It's like they'll
So
look
I
for hearths, which was like someone set a fire somewhere, but you don't know when they set that fire. If it was,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, like that. It's like the way and the confidence people have about dates is really bizarre to me. That's the part that I'm always just like, why they put so much focus. I mean, like for example, Peru is a great one because the like they're kind of like saying, oh, there was like just some like tribal things here before 1100. Like everything's like 1,000 years old and that's it. And you're kind of the Incas did all of this. They're the ones who did the advanced structure, but they only had like 75 years of an empire. There
Yeah.
wasn't even that big of a like a time space that they took over. So you're kind of going like, what? Like this doesn't make sense at all. And they even claimed that it was there before they got there, but we just
Yes.
ignore that.
Oh, that gets brought up a lot that academia ignores that. And I remember on our tour, we went to a place where the army would gather to go conquering. And I'm like, oh, they were a conquering civilization. Like they took over other people's lands. I
Yeah,
didn't know that. I thought they were super peaceful. So they weren't. So they were conquering. But while they were doing that, like the terrace, not the terrorists, the terraces
yeah.
are insane
And they're all over, and
everywhere. It
they're
makes like I I I of course I'm impressed by the megalithic structure, but like when we were driving around, they were just everywhere. And like it'd be weird. There'd be a sheer freaking cliff face, and there'd be some rock. So there'd be a terrace, and then it would stop for a little while. Then it would go around the rock, and then on top of it. And you're like, who's getting up there? Who's taking this job?
Yeah, that's the thing is like when you look off in the distance, I mean, you're already like at base camp, you're already like at 12,000 feet. Some of these things go up to 17, 18,000 feet, and you're kind of going like, why would you put your sheep up there? Like, why are you even building up there? And then I'll be looking around going like, do they still farm up there? What's going on here? I don't, it's, Peru is a crazy mystery to me. It really is.
Yeah, I can't wait to go back. I miss it
Well,
already.
I think I'll have to go back many, many times in my life. The food too is amazing. What do you think about have you looked much into like nubs? What do you think about the that phenomenon?
I think oh man I have no I go back and forth on that one, and that's another one of those similarities that we see everywhere. And also I look at those in the little keyhole cuts. I
Yeah.
was so happy to find one in Peru. That was like I was like, oh my God, I'm actually looking at one, and it's just a little cut in a rock, but it was like my moment. I'm like, I've been waiting to see one of these forever. So the theory was that they poured metal, so they had metallurgy into those to keep them together. I don't know how that's possible, but that's what they found metal in them, so they have.
Hmm.
The nubs could be geopolymer. I mean, like I can be sold on that. Maybe not by certain people, but I can be sold on that somewhat. But I have no effing idea because it doesn't make any sense for leverage,
No,
and there's
that's
no
what mainstream
consistency.
says they're for. It says they're for lifting, but
They're lifted, but they're in such weird places for lifting. I mean, like if it was kind of uniform and they were to the top or all to the bottom, but we get a nub like random nubs
oh, really?
anywhere on the rock. So it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Maybe if we again go back to the geopolymer, or maybe they were just found a way to liquefy the stone some way, some advanced way. That was where you crack the mold, like maybe.
But
Um,
even then, it's like what I always argue with people on that is like if you're advanced enough to do that, then you're advanced enough to remove it.
remove it. Yeah. Why do you
Not
keep it
good
on there?
looking. Like, what are you doing? It's like obviously they had some kind of function because they're not like, oh, that makes it look so much prettier. Let's just keep that. Like if it really was like a mold injection point or something, or even if it was for lifting, sand it off. Like get rid of that.
Yeah, and in some places like in Egypt, like they have gotten rid of it. Like they have, and so it's not uniform, but it's uniform that we see them everywhere,
Yep.
absolutely everywhere on every continent. Probably in Antarctica too, if we ever get down in that ice. but and we have no explanation for it, but clearly everybody was doing kind of the same thing. So of course they just woke up one morning independently and thought of it on their own. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit.
That is the biggest point about like I call them the global hallmarks or whatever is that I mean, at some point, it's like we can argue all day what they were for or how they did them. We don't really know. But the thing that's weird is like how universal they are. Like they're like you find nubs all over India. You find them. We found them in Turkey. You find them in Peru. You find them in Egypt. You find them in Japan. Like you find them in Easter Island on some of the wall. I mean, like what are we talking about? They're crazy. They're very, very bizarre. I mean, there's some that Mike's even found in Montana that are and on there on Shiprock there were some places that I kind of was like that might be a nub. I'm not sure. Shiprock is weird. You're gonna have to see that
I
someday.
can't. I want to see it so much. And you pointed out the reverse nubs too
Yep,
in
there's
Peru.
nubs, which are like sometimes I call them the anti-nub. But then there's, you have your polygonal, you have your pinch holes. Pinch holes are everywhere. We found some pinch holes. We found a really big pinch hole on one of the places in Saybarik or Sabik or whatever. It was near Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. Like it looks like someone just like put a little eyelet inside the rock so that they could like thread some rope through or something. But that feature is bizarre and it's in Mexico, like in Palenque. It's in all these really weird places, and like you said, like the clamp marks are really and what's interesting about the clamp marks is they're you could you could tell that I mean, well, here's the thing. Today we have 2x4s, we have concrete, we have screws and nails and this kind of stuff. And it doesn't matter if you're building in Abu Dhabi or you're building in whatever, Peru or Texas. Like we have different looks of stuff, but that's our architectural language. Well, there existed an architectural language that no more exists now. And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at like they used these stones in these ways that even if they had a different, like a little bit different style, in Egypt than they did in Turkey or India or Peru, they still are using some of the same architectural language features. And that's something I'm so surprised that archaeologists have never dug into.
No, that's a standardization, which meant had that needed time. I mean, it's just common sense stuff. It's a standardization that needed time to build up, to engineer, to create through communication and having enough surplus to have workers to craft this and then design it, then share the knowledge, then share it with another. And then it lasts so long that these other cultures kind of put their little slant on this thing that was built up over time. I mean, like you said, it's kind of what we do now. There's a big cataclysm. Who's screwed? We are. Who isn't? Hunter-gatherer tribes, if they're safe enough away from tsunamis and stuff in the middle of the jungle. And what have we seen through our civilization? Certain civilizations get more advanced faster than others. Why is that? Well, it's usually harmony. It's usually surplus, good food, granted a lot of slaves in back in the day, but now it's a lot of people who have time to work, and that all goes away. But and most of us don't know how to build a computer from scratch. I mean, and I mean from scratch, not just from getting your parts. I mean, making a chip and all that stuff. Most people can't do that. So why in the hell wouldn't it happen? And I think that's we talk about smoking guns. They're all over the planet. I think they're all over the planet. I think the uniformity that we see, the similarities we see between stones with nubs, the insanity of polygonal stones.
Yeah.
And as David Hatcher Childress correctly pointed out, they did it because it was easy for them.
Yep. Yep. It wasn't hard for them.
It
They would have
wasn't.
done it so prevalently.
And similarity after similarity, we were even with certain designs. There was like this four-pointed star thing that I remember Michael telling me, "Oh, this is it's in India and all this stuff." And I found it, and I'm like, "Oh, it's right there." And we found it in Peru. It's the same damn design. So little variation, but And the spiral, we see the spiral that's
That's
absolutely everywhere. Um, and I just think that I think it's crazy to think to completely discount it that there was some kind of mother civilization out there. I think it's absolutely insane.
yeah, I love that. I love they call it mother civilization. So how advanced do you think technology has gotten
Hmm.
before?
I think it's okay. I think it was more advanced than we were in some places, but completely alien to our perspective now. Like we use leverage, we use like sheer will and force and machinery. I think whatever civilization was way more, this is going to sound hippy dippy, way more in tune with the planet, and in a sense scientifically like knew how to manipulate um the energy that was already there, not coerce. A lot of our civilization is coercion of stuff.
Hmm.
Like we have to make something and we have to put ourselves into a plane to fly. And I'll go out there. I think we could have figured out a way through sound, through telepathy, through whatever to move rocks. And I have no idea how, but way more in tune with nature, way more in tune with the planet, using what the planet provided,
I mean,
making
I
them
don't
more
think that
advanced.
that's that crazy because like you have that Coral Castle guy, that Ed Skurger, like I can't remember to say his last name, it's so weird. But uh who like they claim that he built this thing by himself and that he had like these cones and rods that could levitate stones. Like I think there are people who, and that's whatever, like 50 years ago or something. I think there are definitely legends and stuff that they talk about, like people being able to move stones with their minds, or being able to do, or have some sort of technology that we don't know how they did. Like that, I don't know if you've ever looked into Michael Tellinger's stuff, but he did a presentation like a long time ago on these like he found these toroidal shape, like these donut shape stones in South Africa, and there's all
Yes.
like cone ones. And he was also showing that like a bumblebee should not be able to fly. Like its body is too
Yep.
big for the wings, right? But when you look at in a microscope, you see that their wings have all these little like little cone things that do some sort of vibrating off of the magnetic fields. So there's a whole level of, we use electricity now, but I think there's a whole other level of maybe magnetism or something that we're not even aware of that they were aware of. We just haven't rediscovered it.
Exactly. The more documentaries I watch, the more I experience there was a great documentary that where they basically said, that the H blocks in Pumapunku were a yard, were like a perfect yard. And it's like, oh, the yard was rediscovered. That makes sense. Like it was just rediscovered. A lot of maths were just rediscovered. The
And
Greeks,
The H blocks are magnetic.
and they're magnetic. Yes, and like they're strange as hell. They're strange, and they make no sense. And that's why I love them. And they look futuristic. They look alien, 100%. There's certain, carvings that look like, okay, that's definitely man. But then that like when it gets to the again the utilitarian looking stuff, it's like that looks alien. That looks modern. I mean, like it looks
Yeah.
futuristic. Like I would see that in a sci-fi novel. So that's what really kind of gets my curiosity going. Because,
Okay,
well,
so
listen, I'll
then
go
what do you
super.
think about time travel then?
Oh, I think it's well, it's definitely possible to the future. Like we know that. Um, I think of course it's possible. I think because I don't think time is linear. I just don't. I know it's directly related to gravity, and I'm an idiot. But I think I think it's insanely difficult. And I think there's the possibility of you're traveling in time, but you're popping out in another dimension back in that time with a slightly variation to keep you separate from meeting yourself.
Right.
I think there might be
Grandpa's
some,
paradox thing or whatever.
yep, some natural order. I think, but it would have to be super advanced because you would have to place the placement of, like if you wanted to go to Earth at a certain year, you couldn't just go to the time. You got to travel in space too. So you have to figure out like where was the Earth in space at that time. And remember that our solar system's the planet's moving, solar system's moving, galaxies moving. So you'd have to, that's a lot of factors. But I think when if we discover it, I think if we discover it, this used to be like an urban legend out there. I think we'll be able to view it. I don't know if we'll be able to go
Right.
there.
I sometimes wonder if like those orbs that people see or like ghosts or something like that, maybe they are actually just time travel like like you see it and like you're not able to interact with it, but you can view it.
You can view it. That'd be insane. I would love that.
That would
I,
be better than a movie for sure.
yep, yep. But I think that would be the closest we could get to it. But I absolutely think it's possible. I don't think we're from here. I
Yeah.
don't think we're from this planet. I think there's, I mean, I'm not the first one to bring this up, but we have a lot of problems. Like we have back problems. We don't
Childbirth
seem
problems, like
childbirth problems. We
temperature
don't have
problems.
any. We used to have fur, and I guess we just all lost it in like 10 years or something. Or I mean, it takes a long time for things to evolve, and we just kind of popped up geologically speaking like a minute ago. And
It's kind of weird that like, whatever, a horse or anything that's born can just like stand up and walk within a couple of hours, and then we're like lumps of clay for like at least a year.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, so I think we're from somewhere else. Our design is from somewhere else, and it works better for wherever the hell we're from. Was that Mars back when it was a nice planet? Was it somewhere else? Don't know. But I really don't think our design is useful to this planet. We get sunburned all the time.
Yeah.
We don't really adapt well. And
Oh yeah,
we had
temperature. We don't like we only like it when it's like 68 to 72. Other than that, we're not really that happy.
yep, we're the one animal that has to kill another one to put on its furs to keep warm. There's just a lot of weird things about human beings that just don't seem to sync with this planet. So either like, I guess the only other thing is maybe we were in sync at another time when the environment was different, but I still think we're from somewhere else.
Well, and I
To
mean
go
that
completely
to
woke.
that point, like I like the I like one of my favorite things to think about is like the thing about how like the physics of Earth have changed. Like we take
Yes.
a dinosaur, like a pterodactyl couldn't fly today.
Nope.
A what's a brachiosaur, like the ones with the big long necks or whatever. They wouldn't be able to lift their head up on the ground. Like if a blue whale got out of the ocean right now, it would collapse on its own weight because of our gravity, right?
Yep.
Like the reason that you don't have ginkgo leaves that are bigger than my body today is because they literally couldn't like stand on a tree. I mean, there's a limit to this. The flora and fauna used to be huge. Like
Huge.
megafauna, even 10,000, even before Younger Dryas was huge. So I mean, there were sloths that when they stood up were 20 feet tall.
Yeah, I
Just
saw the skeleton one in the UK, and I'm like, what?
but
I had never heard of it at the time. Yeah.
that's not even that long ago. That
No,
was
it's not.
in Younger Dryas. So you're kind of going like, what could change to where the biggest animal now, which is like maybe some elephant, like an African elephant or something, um, it is maybe 15 feet. This is 5 feet bigger than that. What are we talking about? This is crazy.
And why wouldn't humans be bigger? If everybody else was bigger, why weren't humans bigger?
Yeah, so what do you think about the giants?
I love giants. It's my favorite story. I want it to be true, but like, why wouldn't they be bigger? And what happened? And I think there was either more or less oxygen in the air.
Hmm.
There was I think the gravity was different.
Gravity.
And I think certainly that the earth could have been tilted a different way. There's you want to go really crazy, time before the moon, which would have been
Yeah.
insane on this
The
planet, but time before the
Aboriginals
moon.
in Africa or Aboriginals in Australia say that they always talk about the time before the moon came. Like that's something that a lot of Aboriginal tribes across the world apparently like will say like, oh yeah, like the moon came around 200,000 years ago. Well, what does that mean? Is that the Death Star? What is that?
Yeah, and maybe it is. But back to giants real quick. Okay, so I it was the my favorite one's like I want to believe this one, but I just don't. And despite like all Hugh Newman and Jim Vieira's work,
Mhm.
which I love, and I love their show, and I wish it would have got multiple seasons, their History Channel show, there just wasn't enough, and it was really hard for me. Like, I am a conspiracy theorist, right? So the whole like the Smithsonian hiding the bones, I could believe it. I just need to be given a good reason. And I never heard it. I'm like, all right, I can believe a government agency would hide something for information, but why? Why? Why would they hide giant bones? And is it just to like so they don't I mean, would that somehow affirm the Bible people? I don't know. So I found out, but later on, when the boneyard guy said, "Oh, they stole a bunch of my bones. It's not the Smithsonian, but it was another museum kind of like that."
Okay.
And then they just dumped them all in the fucking river rather than give them back. And then that proved to happen. That's when it clicked on me. Okay, I think they would hide shit to keep their
Oh yeah,
narratives, to keep, yeah.
I think they would heist shit. I mean, uh like I can't even like we went to Canyon de Chelly and we like took a native guide down there. I was with like Mike and these other two people, and we the she was telling us like there was something called Egyptian cave right down there. And I was like, why is it called Egyptian cave? She's like, oh, there were some giants that were wrapped in they were mummies that were wrapped in parrot feathers that were like rainbowed feathers. And she was like, oh, I guess your Smithsonian came in and took them and destroyed them. She's like, it's something that when I was a little girl, we went to go see, we would always like revere this my whole life. And then she's like, when I was about 14, they came in and they destroyed them, and so we still call it the Egyptian cave, but it's there's nothing in it anymore because you guys didn't want anybody to know about it. And I'm like, why? She's like, I don't know, but you know, I just like the long the Lovelock caves, which have
The
the
Lovelock Caves. And
the
nobody had a problem with it 100 years ago.
no, it's
Lincoln mentioned it in a speech, the giants of old. He said the giants of old, but like,
it's old. Well,
but he was referring to them being here, and they had long been talked about, and they still are amongst Native Americans around there. And my best guess on hiding it is preserving their narrative, control of information, and I think it freaks them out that it might reaffirm. And like I'm not a religious person. Right? I'm not like atheist, but I'm not a super religious person. But I think that academia, like just the anything that confirms the Bible, they just go they freak out about
yeah,
completely.
it's so weird to me because it's like I'm
Yeah.
not religious either, and like but the Bible, but that like it doesn't even have to like the Native American giants don't have to confirm the Bible like that.
No.
They're 7 foot. They have the average of 7 foot skeletons that have been found in all the mounds is crazy. The amount like
And it's
person.
believable. If I can't remember that, God, I'm so bad with information today. But if you go back and look at the height of some of the chiefs from the last ones, some of the last ones they're like 6 feet tall. So they're not short. They're not
Right.
short. They're 6'4", some are 6'8". Like when we're talking about giants, we're talking about 9, 10 feet. Okay, that's getting pretty tall. But like women who were 7 feet tall and 8 feet tall, and that would be considered, they were just a bigger race that maybe was just held over from, you know, like managed to survive the Younger Dryas and just died out slowly. Why would you hide that? Well, okay, maybe they're trying to hide the
So,
cataclysm.
one of
Yeah.
my favorite little conspiracies that I've come to with that is like I've thought about it. I'm like, I obviously think I mean, if you look at COVID, right, there's a global control system, right?
Yes.
There's something that is like that controls our money and controls a bunch of stuff. That's beyond what we think of our politics or whatever. Like there's some kind of controlling hand in my mind's eye. And I'm wondering if maybe, and I don't think we know them. It's not like it's Bill Gates. It's like I don't think you will ever know these people's faces or know who
Mm-mm.
they are. And so I think that there must be something like maybe the giants are involved. Maybe they really still live somewhere. There might be some reason that they don't want us on to that. Because I almost feel like it has to do with the controllers of who controls our
Yeah.
or fuckery that goes on.
Absolutely. Maybe there's some kind of link to our origin. Maybe there's some kind of link to our history that needs to be hidden. Like they're literally evidence of either they're still around or
That's where we
fuck
really came from,
they,
or that's who we really are, or
we were their slaves or something. Maybe still are, and like who knows? But they're definitely they definitely don't want us to know about it. They definitely want to poo-poo it every time you hear about it. But there's so many reports of bones, and I know a lot of them were bullshit back then, but not everyone. And there's a couple of pictures out there, the Patagonian pictures
right.
of the woman and the dude, and they're big, and they were seen, a couple hundred years before, 300 years before those pictures were taken, to the point where like even giant people are drawn on a map down there, and they're saying, yeah, there's just some big people down there. And it's not, and we just hear again, it's hearing stories over and over again.
And it's like Sardinia, the island near
Yep.
Malta or whatever. They have a lot of giant bones that they found. And I was in some sort of like I don't know, like this Reddit thread with some people who claim that they have some on their land, and they will not show the bones to British people or Americans, or like anybody who speaks English is not allowed to come and see them. And I'm like, why? And they're like, because you guys come back with officials that take them and destroy them. So they're like, so we just don't trust anybody who speaks
Uh,
English to come, because like some at some point, anytime that we have found them in the past, they are taken from us and destroyed.
and I'm with them on that. I'm like, who blames them? It sucks because I was talking on a show. We were just talking about the Clovis people, which aren't like, we all know the Clovis people existed. The problem is that there might be one bone out there of one Clovis teenage girl, and we're not sure on that. But a friend of mine who works with an archaeologist said, "Oh, we definitely know where some bodies are. We can't dig them up. We just can, but we know like it's below the layer to where the Clovis are. The ground penetrating whatever scan they did showed there's bones down there, but we can't dig it up, and it sucks that you can't dig it up. And this is just for Clovis people. So,
Yeah, that was not even anything controversial that we know of. But
yeah,
I went to Colombia a couple years ago, and I did in 2019. No, it was in 2020. And there was this one little village. It was where like they had a big legend of where like a golden fountain came. It was a kind of like El Dorado kind of legend there. And there's 700 skulls that are like like butt heads, like they have like two bulbs. So they were kind of similar to the Peru Paracas skulls with the
yep,
elongated
yep.
skulls, except for that so they had a weird skull shape. They weren't, I wouldn't say they were giant. They were like normal size skulls, but they definitely like it came into a crevice here, and there were two bulbous parts of their skull. So I we had they literally took our, if you wanted to see them, they took your phone and put it in a basket and put it in
Oh,
the locker when you come in, because they were like, we do not allow any video or any pictures of them, because and I was like, why? And she's like, because we've had people come in, Americans come in from NASA, that
uh-huh.
NASA, who've come in and destroyed them or taken them and stolen them. So she's like, so like if you want to see them, you have to, like, I had to sign a waiver and put my phone in a locker to go see them. And I was like, and I so wanted to. I was
I
like, this is when I want those contacts lenses that are
Yep. To
recording.
sneak a picture in.
Right. It's so
Uh
easy to take a picture. But I
and
get what they're saying though, because yeah, like they have 700 right now, but she said they had way more of the skulls that were literally taken and destroyed.
and you can't make like cradle head boarding doesn't explain the butt head skull. Like it doesn't in any way, shape. And I've seen pictures of them. Um, and oh yeah, the elongated skull. Brian Forster has done such good work on
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
The elongated skull thing that's weird. That one is that I think that's a separate, like that was just
Hominid.
humans that had elongated skulls. Good luck giving birth to that, by the way. Have fun. But yeah, and it, again, when he did the DNA, when Brian did the DNA test and found that like they came from Turkey, that was insane. And he did it, man, it took him a long time to do. I followed that whole thing, all the drama behind the yeah, he had so much, he had a hard time just getting it right. And these are there, and it's like, well, okay, it's cradle headboarding. Some is, and of course you've heard this before, but what were they emulating? They were emulating
Why really?
other people who might have been elites, and that was a status as elite status. We saw it in Egypt.
But I mean,
Seen it.
we saw some when you were in Peru, and like they're
Yep,
not all of like if it's cradle, you could see how it's almost like there's little weird ridges. Some of them
yep,
are just perfect.
perfect. And then the suture's not there too, so that it that explain that.
And
It's
the stem at the back, like where the is like placed a little bit different. So there's some differences in those skulls versus ours. And like I mean, and they're not. I thought like when I would see them on videos and stuff, I used to think they were. I don't think they were that giant. A lot of the skulls are. I mean, I think they would have still been regular human size. Maybe they're not. They don't
yeah,
look like they belonged to 8 foot tall humans. They look
no,
more normal
they
size.
just had cone heads. They were
Right.
normal humans
Like
with cone heads, which means I somewhat of a different species. Their brain would have been bigger, and they probably would have thought completely different. And maybe they were the elite. Maybe they were the smartest ones, and maybe they just got all killed because they were. I don't know. Or maybe they had some kind of unique disease to them.
Yeah, that
Uh,
it could be a genetic malformity, but it seems like these whatever they were kind of revered. So
yep. You still got to watch The Watchers. That's L.A. Marzulli. I think I
okay,
mentioned it to you before, but The
yeah,
Watchers, Volume 6. So that's where he and Brian Forster go out to this desert to go. They do a whole like elongated skull thing, but there's this place on private land where there's just bones all over the desert, and it's from the grave robbers who just dug up all these graves, and you could still find like, and they want the jewelry, so they don't care about like the bracelets like this, and they find stuff on the ground that's 3,000 years old, and it's just laying out.
well,
It's
it's like
insane.
uh, the pillars of the past, like the like Paul, he's going to be at our in our cosmic summit thing. He has done a lot of work on some of the looting that goes on. It's that's the other thing is like Graham Hancock's thing was called Fight for the Past, but a lot of it really is because you
Yeah.
fighting looters, you're fighting archaeologists who have very narrow-minded, like this is the only thing we could do with this. And then when they are done digging a site, they give it over to the government who either bastardizes it and changes it into a place or abandons it and it gets destroyed. Like we have really weird etiquette and society cultural things with ancient stuff. It's very bizarre. Um, and I don't know how we fix that or what do we do about that?
That's the nature of man. I think
Right?
I because we want to know. We want to preserve these sites, but we want to know. And of course there's a happy medium. Um, but yeah, I don't think there's any fixing it, especially with you just got to hope that like they're going to tourist it up, but they don't like completely fuck it up. I guess, and that's hoping against hope. Hope is not a strategy. But the age of discovery is not over. That's what's exciting about
Yeah,
it. It's
there's
like there's
still
so
so
many other places like Japan, like megalithic Japan. Like I never thought I'd want to go there for megaliths, but now I do, like
oh
100%.
yeah, and
And
there's still
China,
other ones.
and China's going to preserve all theirs or destroy them because they don't want anybody touching them. And there's insane stuff there. Uh,
Yeah, like the what is that thing that Mike's been to? Not the Young UKs, but the big the quarry with
the
the
quarry with that giant cutout block that is the biggest. I mean, I think it's bigger than the stone of the pregnant woman
oh yeah, like that's yeah.
in Baalbek.
I even asked Mike, I'm like, because he's been everywhere, so I'm like, what's the one that's the biggest? And he's like, oh, it's definitely, uh, I can't even say shot like whatever. It's the China place, yeah.
The China place with the big cutout stone that's as big as a
Giant
building,
nubs that are like huge on.
giant nubs. And then the caves, of course, that they're carving in, that they're like tagging with, you know, Chinese stuff like, and then none of that was there. So if you see that carving of the dragon and the king, like they put all that stuff in there. None of that's from the caves.
And
So,
like and it definitely has like tooling markings all
oh
over.
yeah,
Yeah. So I
And
mean,
it's uniform. It's such a trip. It's
and
almost like a
that's what
machine did
makes
it.
me like, there's so many mysteries though. If you guys really want to dig in, that there's cart ruts, there's like, I mean, there's
The cart ruts are inexplicable. I don't even have a theory. It looks like aliens came down to off-road right after a volcano, like well, right at the
right.
volcanic tuff was like starting to cool down a little bit. And they came down here in their little alien quads and did some off-roading. That's what it freaking looks
And
like.
then they were like, let's do it all over. There's cart ruts in Texas, they're in the Azore Islands, they're in Malta all over, they're in Turkey. They're just very bizarre, and then I found some in Peru. Um, like, it'd be awesome to see if they're like uniform size, like if we know those like the same sort of vehicle being used or not. But yeah, they're
Ben Ben Van Kerkwyk showed off some in Turkey that are uniform. It straight up looks like a car drove and turned. It was
yeah, like a trolley
insane.
track.
Yeah. And they're in Turkey, they're in volcanic tuft that was dated to like 2.5 million years ago.
Oh,
No, sorry, 13 million years ago. My bad. 13 million years ago. So somebody was driving around 13 million years ago, and man, in 13 million years, they're gonna trip out on this. This is gonna be funny. Because
it's weird though because like I went to the dinosaur footprint place like in Fossil Rim in Texas, and they're like it's some calcium carbonate like stone basically like we've unearthed them in the last 50 years, and then they do get like exposed to the weather conditions and they start eroding away. Like, so what the dinosaur footprints looked like 50 years ago to now is like it's like a died in a half life already.
yeah,
So I don't know like how these cart ruts are so well preserved.
yeah, that's and Ben showed off a picture of, for one, it's insane because it was preserved naturally and which means it was covered in dirt, and then that dirt was removed naturally over millions of years. But there's like these tire tracks, and then there was something hanging off the vehicle that was scraping the side. That's uniform too. So you have what looks like a tire track, and then something scraping the side in perfect two lines.
Oh yeah, that's called the Phelan something's way or the area. And yeah,
Yeah, it was I and Ben, and like me and Ben and the guys were just like, we're trying to theorize, and we're like, I I I don't know. Like I don't, like, this can't be natural. It looks like wheels. Looks like wheels of some, and they were just driving around doing stuff in the mud.
well, and it's like it's not like the groove is like natural or the groove is like very like pumpkin tooth like or castle like it's like here boom doom doom. It goes it's very distinct like this is the ledge that goes down into the groove and then it's up. Like it's not like oh, whatever, a snake just slithered along there.
Yeah,
Like,
snake or some water, or even like Ben's like, no, these weren't even carved. They serve no purpose. They run over each other.
right. That's
Um,
the thing. It's not like a train track. Like they seem to like stop in the middle of nowhere or like sometimes there only be like only one of the sides made a groove and the other one's not there. And it's yeah, cart ruts are crazy to me. But I like that. It's like some past aliens having a off-roading holiday.
yeah, yeah.
That's
I
pretty fun.
think that's it. I think my first theory is the best.
So do you have any of your own original theories or what do you want to what's your future plan for ancient history, Gary?
Doing a lot more traveling to experience more stuff, a lot more reading. I I follow it as an observer. So I don't think there's anything that's bugged me like in particular that I want to research.
Yeah.
That could change once I start traveling more. I mean, my other YouTube gig takes 95% of my time, and if I was able to take half of that and put it towards the studies of ancient civilization and disclosure and all that stuff, it would be fun, and I'd be able to dig into it and make videos on it. And that's the plan. That's the plan. That's going to be kind of like my retirement job when I'm pretty old now. So,
So you
uh,
have plans to make Forbidden Frontier like its own channel, right? Or what are you guys
yeah,
doing something with
we're going
that?
to make it its own channel, and we have aspirations of having that show run 5 days a week at night.
Okay, wow. So
That's the
you're gonna be
aspiration.
the new Art Bell of art history.
I would, the ghost of Art Bell is always with me. That would be awesome. That would. No commercial breaks, no break in every 15 minutes. Just doing, but doing it like art, news in the beginning, and then we have a guest, and we do it at night. Right now we're in the evening because Adam's in Sweden, but we'll, and this is like a couple of years down the line, but that's my goal. That is my goal to put far more time into it. And then maybe like on one of my travels, I'll find a thing and I'll just obsess, which will happen. I'll just obsess
Well,
on it.
honestly, I think my main obsession is kind of nubs, and that's from seeing them in person myself and being like, damn it, what is like, yeah, I think every new place I go to, I get like a little bit more piece of the puzzle. And nothing is like what from my experience, because now I've traveled to a bunch of these places. Um, Nothing is like what you've seen online. It's always a completely different experience when you've gone in person versus like what you knew about it online and what you've seen in videos. Like, did you have that experience with Peru? Like you felt like being in person was solidified some more stuff in your head or what?
Absolutely. It was life changing. That like it is something I had wanted to see for the longest time and honestly never thought I would. So when I got that, like the first thing we did when we got there is like, oh, we could walk to Sacsayhuaman. Let's freaking go. I want to go right now. And yeah, it was like I heard music and I was like, oh shit. It really doesn't do it. You hear it from everybody. Pictures do not do it justice. And then you get to see the whole area, which the wall is just a little part of it
Oh yeah.
and that whole trippy part that's across the way, that's a natural structure, but it's weird. It's weird. It looks like the earth
Oh,
bled
on that
Play-Doh.
X. Yeah.
Yeah,
And they have a weird and also it looks like sometimes it looks like structures were turned upside down and there's
absolutely.
caves and stuff in there and there's and then yeah, you have the Temple of the Moon, that whole area and the Monkey Temple, all that stuff is just super bizarre. And I love that that stuff's not blocked off yet.
Yeah, I do too. It was really good to run around that. That was lots of fun. I think if I have a thing that I'd want to do something comprehensive, I mean, a bunch of people have done it, but I mean, comprehensive, it would take way too much time. Is I would like to document all the similarities between cultures and like have them in categories, like similarities of design, like, and I mean designs that they've made, symbols that they've made,
But
similarities in architecture, similarities in statues, similarities maybe in language, like, and then basically photo document it, like maybe not so much language, but all the stuff that's similar around the world. Put it all in one place and go, okay, like here's, because we see a lot of it in Graham's books, but
right.
it's only a little percentage. And to show everybody, like in one place, somehow in a video, in a book, whatever, like how many similarities are, I think that would open a lot of eyes. Like, oh,
I
wait a
I
minute.
think so too. I mean, like I've been working on a database for like 4 or 5 years now, so I can share it with you what I have.
Good.
Like, but I have like over 600 sites now that have and I've identified for right now there's about 58, 59 similar features. And like so I just kind of binary code go through whether does it have this feature, yes or no, yes or no. And then so you could kind of see the percentage of these places that have it or don't have it. So I just have it like in a working Excel sheet right now, but eventually once AI is amazing, I would love to
Yep.
like teach it how to like train it how to find these certain features, and then we can see like okay, like how prevalent are nubs, how prevalent are like polygonal, like how prevalent is this thing, so yeah, like you definitely can help me with that project. I will send you the
Hell
data.
yeah.
I just think that that is for me that's like you can't disprove this like because it's in stone. It's like here you go, here it is, here's the evidence, it's in stone. Now come talk to me how none of it is correlated. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
So you're looking at something that like the academia will say that's impossible, but it's staring us right in the face,
Yep.
literally set in stone or made of stone. And they deny it. And you're like, and I love that. I love that this is still a world of impossible things. and mystery
Yeah,
that
me
we
too.
can't answer. We think
As
we're
much
so
as
effing
like I'm
smart.
annoyed that they're like not telling us the full truth of stuff, I also have to say I get off on it too in terms of like I'm glad that we live in a world where we still have cool mysteries.
Yep. No, and that's it's the greatest mystery of all. And it won't be solved in my lifetime, and I'm fine with that. I just if I get a little truth, that'd be cool.
Yeah,
That'd
and
be
it's
cool.
like if we just like and the thing is the more I look into this, I always find new stuff every day all the time. Like
Yep.
I still find new sites and new stuff all the time that I'm like, whoa, I never thought about that, like crazy. So yeah, I okay, so we've nerded out now about ancient history.
Yes, we did it.
We did it.
We did
Okay,
it.
thank you, Gary. This has been a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me on. We got to get you on my show soon again too, and go on a trip.
Yes, we do. All right, we'll see you later. Bye.